Hello, this is Tofudon with another video about Genshin. In this one, I'll be starting a series about Genshin team comps and why they work. A kind commenter made a suggestion for a series on this premise, and I'll do my best to make something worth watching. First, I'll start with defining the structure of team comps that we usually see in Genshin. Team comps almost always have one main DPS who specializes in dealing damage on field. DPS characters usually emphasize field time to maximize their damage, but the way that players maximize this on field damage may vary. You can only have 4 characters on your team comps, so you should choose characters carefully to find characters that do the most out of their spot on your team comp. You can do this in many different ways, and often it depends on who your DPS is and what they can take the most advantage of. With the 3 spots on your team comp, you can make different combinations of 1 sub-DPS 2 supports, 2 sub-DPS 1 support, 3 sub-DPS, or 3 supports. This sounds like convoluted Genshin mambo-jumbo, so let me go over what these words mean. A sub-DPS specializes in off-field damage that usually trigger reactions that maximize damage as a whole. Supports can either specialize in buffing your team or being a sustain. Some people place supports and healers separately, but I like using the umbrella term of supports to keep things simple. As I said before, you can mix and match these characters to best fit these needs. So let's jump into looking over the actual team comps and explaining how they work. Let's start with the team comp that I literally mentioned in every single video I've made on my channel. This team includes Xiao, Xianyun, Faruzan, and Bennett. Using the structure from before, we can see we have 1 main DPS and 3 supports. With a character like Xiao, you will usually see team comps with more supports than sub-DPS characters. Why? Xiao cannot make much use of sub-DPS characters. Let's say we made a team of Xiao, Jingqiu, Raiden Shogun, and Nahida. While Xiao can definitely trigger the off-field damage with his attacks, it's not ideal for sub-DPS because one Xiao does the most damage from his ult and plunging attacks, so using amplifiers to damage on his normal attacks is kind of pointless. 2. Xiao uses Animo, which doesn't help with the reactions that this team comp has to offer because he does not have remarkable application. Supports have more to offer to Xiao because in team comps with the characters I mentioned before, all amplify his most effective form of damage. Xianyun increases jump height and offers an Animo damage bonus after a plunging attack, which is literally designed for Xiao. Faruzan buffs Animo damage so much, you literally can't not use her for Animo DPSs. Bennett increases ATK while offering heals. Further, Bennett's ult has an effect in a circle, and Xiao is usually plunging in one spot, meaning Xiao can maximize how consistently he gets buffed because he stays within Bennett's circle. That being said, you may see team comps that resemble something like Xiao, Xiangling, Bennett, and Kazuha. These team comps are 1 main DPS, 1 sub-DPS, 2 supports. Team comps like these operate like 2 team comps in one that function at the same time. The reason these work is that sub-DPS are not completely dependent on Xiao's attacks. Whether or not Xiao is attacking, Xiangling's Piranado will be spinning. Another team comp with Xiao is one with Albedo as the sub-DPS and 2 supports of Zhongli and an interchangeable support like Bennett, Faruzan, Jian, or Xianyun. This one is similar to the Xiaoling. I'm not shipping them, I'm naming the team comp, with 2 teams in one. But Zhongli here, who is on Tenacity of the Millilith, will be supporting both Xiao and Albedo. I mentioned before that a Xiao, Jingqiu, Raiden Shogun, and Nahida team comp wouldn't work because Xiao uses plunging attacks, and you're probably asking why would Albedo work if he supports attacks as well? The difference here is that Jingqiu only supports normal attacks. Xiao's plunges do not count as normal attacks and do not trigger Jingqiu's rain swords, which brings down this team's ability to trigger its primary reaction. On the other hand, the Albedo team comp can trigger geo damage in response to any attack, which immediately makes it better than the Hyper Bloom team comp with Jingqiu. I'll review one more DPS team comp which revolves around, drum roll please, His Grace Riothasley. I personally use him in a team comp with Rosaria, Bennett, and Kazuha. Following the structure before, this one has one sub-DPS and two supports. Rosaria is a cryo battery with good cryo application that Kazuha can swirl. You can build Rosaria on 4-piece Blizzard Strayer or Emblem of Severed Fate depending on what you feel your Riothasley. If you think he needs more crit rate, go Blizzard, and if you want Rosaria to do more damage, go Emblem. Bennett and Kazuha are the supports that buff Riothasley's damage or drive reactions depending on what Kazuha swirls. Here I'd like to admit something about Genshin that I feel is a bit problematic. In countless team comps, you will see either Bennett or Kazuha or both. I feel the community's reliance on two characters is a bit problematic since these characters leave little room for other characters and variation in team comps. Another team composition for Riothasley is for Hyper Bloom with Xingqiu, Shogun, Kuki, and Nahida. An underrated one for sure, but very interesting. Riothasley, who uses cryo-infused normal attacks, is a great catalyst for elemental reactions like Hyper Bloom that need on-field characters that trigger off-field sub-DPS damage. While Riothasley is not Dendro, Electro, or Hydro, which is ideal for Hyper Bloom, he triggers the reactions very easily, making him a good driver for a team comp like this one. If you don't care too much about Riothasley dishing out big numbers, this team comp is good for Abyss clears. Going back to the first team that I mentioned for Riothasley, you can change things while maintaining the gist of the team comp. For example, you can combine the roles of Rosaria and Bennett of cryo application and buffs with Shenhei. Or if you want heals for some reason, you can use Charlotte for the cryo application as well. You can also go for permafreeze team comps with unconventional uses for characters like Ganyu and Ayato. You can use Kokomi for hydro and heals.
So my AI voice generator kind of broke. So I think I'm gonna have to voice the rest of this over myself. So it's a little embarrassing, but I personally really enjoy how you can use Ryosley in like so many team comps according to your playstyle and what characters you have. On the other hand, while I do love Alhaitham and Shao, I feel like there isn't very good team comp variation, and I feel like that limits how much you can enjoy a character because you can really only use them in a few team comps unless you want to like deviate and just mess around a little bit. This video was a little bit longer than I intended, but I still have a lot more to say about these team comps. So I'll definitely be continuing this series, and thank you to Idzaiba for your suggestion, and thank you to like everyone for watching. I really appreciate if you watched this far, and I'll definitely be posting on this series again. Bye bye.